Hey guys, it's Erica, and in this video, we're talking about money traps to avoid in your 30s. Your 30s are fun. You're probably more sure of yourself than you were in your 20s, probably in a better financial situation, and you probably have a better understanding of what your priorities are and what you want in life. And you're probably making more money. That being said, there are some money traps that you have to avoid because if you fall into these traps, then you could be spending your 40s trying to climb out of this mess that you've created for yourself. So this is really your chance to avoid these mistakes that so many people fall for. And I've seen it again and again. When I was working at the corporate law firm, these other lawyers are making a great salary in their 30s, they've climbed up the corporate ladder, and everything's in their favor. But they just fall into trap after trap and just end up making it really difficult for themselves because it's not about how much money you make, it's about what you're doing with that money that you make, how much you're saving, how much of that money you're investing and making it work for you. And most of these traps I've fallen for too at some point. For starters, I got into $200,000 of debt without even thinking about the gravity of it. But that's a whole different video. To avoid these traps, you first need to be aware of them, but then take action to avoid them, because society is going to push you into these traps. And what's going to separate you from the people who get sucked in is knowledge and then the desire to do things differently. Because if you do what everyone else is doing, you're going to end up in the same situation as everyone else. Most Americans wouldn't be able to pay for a $1,000 emergency expense with cash. So if you're ready, let's jump in. The first trap that people fall into in their 30s is buying expensive things. Let's talk first about the expensive car. A car gets you from point A to point B. That's the simple reality, right? But what society has done is morphed it into something much bigger than that. A car is no longer about getting you to your destination. It's a status symbol. It's a way for people to brag without using words about how much money they have. That's why you see people taking out loans to buy cars that they can't afford, perhaps in part because they want people to perceive them in a certain way. If you really dig into it, people often brag when they feel like they have something to prove. You don't see billionaire Warren Buffett driving fancy cars, yet every online guru selling you their $2,000 course just happens to have a Lamborghini behind them. Because we've turned these cars into status symbols, that's why even though buying a used, reliable car will get you the most bang for your buck, people still go for the brand new cars. A brand new car is going to lose 10% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. That's the equivalent of just throwing cash out the car window the moment you drive off. By the end of year one, it's worth about 20% less than what you paid for it. And by the end of year 3, it's worth about half of what you paid for it. But many people want that new shiny toy and the status symbol, so they still buy the brand new car. But think, if you buy a used car, let's say it's 3 years old, that still works perfectly fine and gets you from point A to point B, you're probably paying 50% less than what you'd pay for the same car brand new. And now you can take those savings and invest them to make the money work for you. It's the same thing with houses and buying expensive brand name clothing. If you fall into this trap of wanting to be perceived as rich, it's going to be hard to actually become rich. And sometimes in life, you're going to have to give up what you think life should look like, the nice car and the nice house, to get to the actual goal of what you actually want your life to be, which is actually having wealth and the freedom that comes with that. I'm sure you'd much rather be rich than look rich. The second trap people fall into is having an expensive partner. It sounds like a joke, but it's actually true. Having an expensive partner can derail everything. Now, I'm not telling you to go break up with your expensive partner, but it's something you want to be aware of because if you're not on the same page about your financial goals and what you value, it can really make it hard to get ahead with money. So be open to having those difficult conversations about money, ideally before you get married, because you're going to be pursuing mutual goals, and it doesn't work if you're not on the same page. If you're saving money and your partner is going off spending it on the latest iPhone every year, it's pretty hard to move up that wealth ladder. Every time you move one step forward, they'll take you one step back. Or maybe every time you move one step forward, they take you 2 steps back. Then you're just playing a game that you simply can't win. And if you're in the dating scene, watch out for red flags. I feel like you can probably tell from a few dates whether a person's going to be an expensive partner or not. I mean, I'm not really qualified to give dating advice, but maybe you can try inviting them to McDonald's for the first date, and that can be your test. And just because I'm curious, let me know in the comments any red flags that you've spotted that tipped you off that you were dealing with an expensive partner. The third trap is not learning about personal finance. One of the worst things about the education system is we go to school for years to learn about things that aren't really useful. I've never once in my adult life been in a position where I had to solve a long division problem by hand. And we aren't taught personal finance. We don't learn how to improve our credit score or how to budget or how to invest. We don't learn how to make money besides just following the path of going to school and getting a job. But where the divide occurs in your 30s is there are people who are just going to accept that, okay, school didn't teach me about personal finance, so I'll remain oblivious. And then there will be others who say, okay, school didn't teach me, but I want to learn it on my own. It won't be easy, but I want to learn how to invest in the stock market, in real estate, how to make more money, and all of these things. And they pick up a personal finance book, or they subscribe to a YouTube channel. Learning about it is just one step of it. You have to then apply it to your life. And something I realized about myself is that if I learn something and don't apply it right away, years could go by before I end up doing it. I remember being in my early 20s and I think I heard about a Roth IRA, but it sounded intimidating and I thought investing was just the thing for rich people, so I did nothing about it. And it wasn't until years later in my late 20s where I heard the concept again. And this time I actually decided to act on it. I pulled up a blog post on how to open a Roth IRA and I did it. So consuming information is one thing, but what actually matters is if you then go act on that information. And a lot of us don't. We read self-help books about how to lose weight, or spend hours watching YouTube videos about how to be productive, or how to create passive income, but then don't actually end up doing anything to change. The information is all out there, but it's up to you to choose to spend your time consuming it and then taking action on it. Kind of on a related note, another trap is not having enough patience when it comes to money. Your 30s are where you're gonna plant the seeds for wealth. Hopefully you started in your 20s, but if you didn't, it's fine. Your 30s are where you can really make a difference because you still have 30 years until retirement. The trap is that people are not patient enough because let's just take the making money part of it. It's like riding a bike or learning how to play a piano. It's a skill. Most people aren't going to be naturals at it. But the more you train yourself, the more you practice, and the more you do it, the better you get. Before I quit my law firm job over a year ago, I had never made any money online, besides I think renting my place on Airbnb. And it wasn't an overnight success. I tried really hard. I was working crazy hours building up my online legal company and this YouTube channel. In January of last year, I made $0. But just like learning how to ride a bike, there's a steep learning curve at the beginning because you have a lot to learn, but then it gets easier. And the problem is, most people get exhausted and discouraged and give up climbing up that steep hill, when in reality, if they had just stuck with it and stayed consistent a little longer, then the fruits of their labor would start to trickle in. But they give up because it's not the immediate gratification that we're used to. We're used to an exchange of money for time. You work for 1 hour for the store and they pay you $10. It's something to immediately be able to show for your work. But a lot of the personal finance concepts that will really secure your financial path are not immediate. They're long-term strategies. They require time, effort, and a good deal of patience and persistence. Budgeting for a month and then just stopping won't really help you in the long run. If you have debt, which I did, I had the $200,000 of student loans, paying it off is not a short-term project. Month after month, year after year, you have to stick with your budget in order to pay off that debt. So you have to stay patient with these things. Now, the fifth trap is not investing early enough. I didn't invest in my early 20s and it's one of my biggest regrets. I didn't have anyone telling me I should do it and I was intimidated by it. I really didn't think it was for people like me. And obviously I didn't have any money to really put towards investing, but I wish I would have just put even $100 a month into the stock market. But it's better late than never. In your 30s, you're likely making more money than your 20s, so this is your opportunity to build up wealth through investing. With investing in the market, it's pretty simple if you actually think about it. Stop trying to time the market, stop going after short-term exciting stuff, and stop being impatient. Stay the course. Also remember, in your 30s, you aren't going to be fully seeing the effects of compounding. Warren Buffett made 99% of his wealth after age 50. And this isn't because he wasn't working in his 20s and 30s and 40s, it's because of the power of compounding. If you stay the course now and focus on investing whatever you can in your 30s, you're going to start seeing the pickup in wealth later on. So what matters is what you've been doing early in your career, and for whatever reason, humans by nature have a very hard time understanding the power of compounding. But just stick with the simple rule. Don't disrupt the power of compounding because it's only going to get better and better. Trap number 6 is putting your increased earnings into materialism. So many people fall for this trap of lifestyle inflation. You're in your 30s and you're making more than you were in your 20s, but instead of taking those extra earnings to build more wealth, you put them into upgrading your lifestyle, getting the nicer cars, the house, the vacations. So when you take a look at your savings and investments, you're actually just saving the same amount you were when you were making less. And that's the big problem and the reason why people stay trapped. As earnings go up, their consumption also goes up. And these increased earnings aren't going into the wealth. They just disappear into the latest gadgets and the Louis Vuitton purses. If you truly want to avoid that trap, then you have to start paying yourself first. When you get a raise, that extra money should be going towards you and your future, whether that's putting it into real estate or the stock market, something that's going to build you wealth and create more money, not the temporary gratification that comes from purchasing shiny objects. And if you're consistently doing that and resisting the urge to inflate your lifestyle, that can lead to such an incredible outcome if you allow it to play out long enough and are patient with it. Because remember, time is the most valuable asset we have. If you can avoid these traps in your 30s, then you're really setting yourself up for an incredible future. But if you follow the crowd and fall for these traps, that's what's going to keep you trapped in the cycle of working for a paycheck and then spending a paycheck. And you want to be smart about it in your 30s. I know guys who are in their 40s and 50s who made millions in their 30s, spent it poorly, like buying houses and the cars and yacht trips, and have nothing to show with it. Because if you're constantly upgrading your lifestyle, you become golden handcuffed. You need a job because you have that expensive mortgage to cover and that car payment for the fancy car that you probably didn't need. Then you have to sacrifice your most valuable asset, which is time, to maintain that illusion of wealth and keep up with it. If you want to get started on taking control of your money in your 30s, I have 2 personal finance videos each week on this channel. You can also download the free passive income guide I created for you by clicking on the link in the description. And finally, if you want free stocks, I have a link in the description for you to get free stocks when you open an account and fund it. It's like free money, so you can go ahead and get your free stocks below. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash the like button. I really appreciate you and have a great day.